Finishers and factions catching action.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of Finishers and Factions does Monday Night Raw. This week, both myself and Adam, welcome Adam, will be discussing the action from the Heritage Bank Center in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, this is the 19th Raw from this arena, and they've got an attendance of just over sort of 12,250, 259 to be precise. But
they sold out this episode then.
Yeah, pretty much. As we've noticed that they don't give out the attendance unless they are close to selling out at least. But yeah, the first thing that we're sort of treated to, and the first thing that I made note of, only because it is sort of noteworthy, is the fact that we have an unusual visitor to Monday Night Raw. We have Cody Rhodes in attendance, obviously following the promo that was cut by him and The Rock on Friday Night SmackDown.
That wasn't a promo. That was 20 minutes of our time being wasted.
Hence the hesitation. But we'll go straight to in ring for a promo from
one of Ohio's favourite superstars, not by given the reaction that he received from the crowd in Cincinnati.
No, of course, we're talking about the Maverick Logan Paul,
who is himself a Cleveland, Ohio native, which is, I think, why they've bought him out really early on, just to kind of push the fact that he's the local boy and they want to get it out of the way. Well, we certainly want to get it out of the way anyway.
Yeah, and as you said, it was evidenced by the crowd's reaction. He is not liked in Cincinnati, at least.
No, definitely
and
not.
it would appear that he doesn't like Cincinnati either, which is a bit odd. So they are very much not liking one another at this stage.
Well, it's kind of like for them, it's a local rivalry. Cincinnati and Cleveland, they are big rivals, whether it be football between the Browns and the Bengals, basketball, baseball, you name it, those guys, they hate each other. So sticking out the front of the opposing side is right in the face of these guys in Cincinnati. It's got to be a real slap in the face. I'd love to slap Logan Paul in the face, but that's a completely different episode of the podcast.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that would like to slap Logan Paul in the face, if we're honest. But
it just shows that he's pulling his heel roll off very, very well. As much as we hate to admit it, they've set him up nicely for a heel run, and he plays up really well.
I only give credit where credit is due, in fairness.
Well, he hasn't paid his dues, but we're not going to go into that one.
No, we've been into that one.
He is starting to kind of push his way through at the moment. Obviously, he's in the Elimination Chamber on Saturday. He came out to talk about how he booked his slot in the Elimination Chamber after he beat the Hall of Famer Rey Mysterio a couple of weeks ago.
And he sadly is retired now.
Well, it's come out he's out indefinitely with a knee injury caused by the New Day, but I'm not 100% sure if he's hung up his boots. I mean, Ray comes and goes as Ray pleases, really. He's Rey Mysterio. He can kind of do what the fuck he wants anyway.
Well, I've very much got the impression that we're not gonna see Ray in ring again. Unfortunately, it is the impression that I'm getting from the news that's coming out from
social media,
Rey Mysterio's camp and things like that. It's a sad day if that is the truth, but obviously he's got
to go out as well to the New Day of all people. Like, that's definitely not a good day when the New Day are ruining careers.
No, this is it. But can't really say that his career's been ruined. I mean, it's Rey Mysterio's career. The guy's one of the very few living legends.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Talking about living legends, though, we got to see another one in this promo. with the
We certainly
second
did.
city saint, Mr. CM Punk, decides to cut Logan Paul off midway through whatever he was saying. And
All the right words, just not necessarily in the right order.
pretty much what The Rock did the other day. And we're seeing an awful lot of CM Punk at the moment. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not mad about it. After not having him in the WWE for so long, or even in professional wrestling for so long, actually getting to see him a lot makes younger Rich happy.
Well, as it stands, obviously we've, as you quite rightly pointed out, Logan Paul, CM Punk has only recently sort of made his reappearance back at back in WWE. That's not to say that he hasn't had runs before. I mean, he himself is in the Elimination Chamber this year, and he's no stranger to the Chamber either. This will be his fifth Elimination Chamber.
I think he's probably one of the most experienced when it comes to the Elimination Chamber. So you look over those 5 entrances into the chamber, look at the superstars he's been in there with.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's also no stranger to winning the chamber either.
No, he's
to being
not.
able to win the chamber matches. He has won one of those previous 4 that he's been in, but because he has not been in WWE for over a decade, it's his first chamber match in 13 years.
And like, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to hurt doing things that I did 13 years ago. And Phil Brooks CM Punk is definitely a lot older than we are. And
definitely,
he's definitely got to be feeling some of these big matches. That's probably why we're not seeing as much of him, because he's taken so long for him to recover.
Possibly. We can't rule it out. I mean, as anybody gets older, it takes them longer to recover from anything that they're doing, realistically.
Well, one thing that Logan Paul's going to take a little bit of time to recover from, I think, is the beatdown that he's going to get off CM Punk on Saturday, because Logan Paul had the fucking absolute balls to slap CM Punk in the face.
Yeah, after some verbal sparring in the ring, which, I mean, if you're going to get in the ring and spar with CM Punk,
you got to be prepared to take an L on that one, I'm afraid. You don't go
100%.
in a ring with CM Punk looking for a war of words and win very often.
No, there's not very many people that have walked out of a war of words better than they went in, unfortunately.
No, and after CM Punk not only destroys him with the microphone, that you get the cheeky little slap, like I said, from Logan Paul, and he made a run for it, because you know what? You don't slap Punk in the face and stand in the ring and wait for a response. Not unless you want some serious pain being brought your way in a pretty much guaranteed go to sleep.
I'm not going to lie, though. I still referred to Logan Paul as a bitch for running away when in my notes this week, because...
Why not? It's Logan Paul. He's a bitch.
I've seen bitchier bitches not run something like that, to be honest. So
well, yeah, definitely. But we definitely... They're starting to build up. I think if Logan Paul and CM Punk do not win the Elimination Chamber on Saturday, they are going to go into some sort of programming afterwards. That slap alone was enough to make me feel that was the way it was going.
it's definitely a possibility. I don't think we can rule it out at this point.
No, definitely
I think
not.
it'd be silly not to. But before we get there, we've got a hell of a lot of Raw and other promotions to talk through before we get to
well, we left
Elimination Chamber.
We left this opening promo with CM Punk standing in the ring and Logan Paul pretty much disappearing, and then we went into a VT recap of Penta and Pete Dunne from last week, with it's basically just kind of reiterating sort of the heat between Pete Dunne and Ludwig Kaiser. Ludwig Kaiser obviously came in last week and distracted the match, giving Penta an opportunity to take out both men that he was up against at that opportunity in the triple threat match. So it was kind of and that was the an interesting one. I think the way they've kind of kept this one going. I didn't see this storyline going as far as it did, with sort of Penta, Pete Dunne, and Ludwig Kaiser.
No, I think these were possibly just a bunch of like cold matches that they put together in the hope that they could sort of build something organically. And in fairness, it does seem to have worked out. It's whether it's got legs on it to go past where it is now. I'm not saying it has. I have seen I did see an interesting poster. I can't remember if I've spoken to you about it actually. A fan-made poster for an IC title match.
Is this the six-man ladder match poster that's been floating around? Yeah, so it
Mania.
was. Yeah. Well, I think we've seen a different one floating, because I saw one that had it might have had some of these guys in it, but it had Sheamus and
Mysterio,
possibly. I'd have to look it up now, but I know they definitely had Sheamus in it, because I saw another one that had afterwards of Sheamus with the IC title around his waist. I'm not sure if that was a potential spoiler for Mania, or if that is just some fan-made Photoshop work that was done very, very well.
I mean, why couldn't it be both?
Oh, I mean, can you imagine? Obviously, Sheamus has never won the IC title, so it'd be a hell of a pop if he pulled that one off.
Oh, 100%. There'll be a hell of a pop in my living room when I fucking watch it. It's a case that I'm not going to be able to keep the lid on that shit.
No, definitely not. But no, we then ended up with a match between Pete Dunne and Penta and Ludwig Kaiser.
So it was a triple threat match.
It was yes.
Ludwig Kaiser versus Pete Dunne versus Penta. So they were basically at the old adage of stick them in a ring, let them duke it out, get a system.
Kind of feels like Teddy Long sat in the background somewhere, just kind of pulling some strings. Oh, we'll settle this in a three-way. We'll settle this in a tag team match.
I was going to say his go-to was a tag team match player.
Unless, of course, you ended up going one-on-one with The Undertaker player.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going one-on-one with The Undertaker apart from Michelle McCool. No.
That was the joke I was about to fly in. Yeah, but these guys went into what I thought was a pretty good match, considering I haven't seen much of Ludwig Kaiser in ring during the Netflix era. We've seen a bit of him, but not a huge amount to be able to make up enough of a judgment on what I thought. We've seen a lot from Pete Dunne and we've seen a lot from Penta, so this match already between those two was going to be a decent match. Adding Ludwig Kaiser into it, sometimes, like I said, it could have gone one of both ways. It went in a more positive way than I thought it was going to, I'm not going to lie. But for a triple threat match, it was actually pretty good. And it was noted by the commentary team as well. It's the first time these three have ever had a triple threat match, which I found slightly funny considering Penta's 4-0 going into this match, so he's been around for like the last month, where the other two guys have obviously been around a lot longer. So yeah, I found it a bit silly how they threw that one in, but one of those interesting facts after all that Michael Cole likes to spout, I suppose.
Yeah, it's see, I didn't hate this match. I just think that this was another way of them being able to push the Penta agenda. It's not again, it's not a criticism. Well, I suppose it sort of is. I'm unsure how to feel about this match. When I watched it, I enjoyed it. It was a good match, but I couldn't help feeling like the other two guys in the ring were not really getting sort of a fair shake at the stick. It was all sort of Penta. All of the action was very much weighted towards Penta.
Yeah, so the few notes that I made out was that Pete Dunne started off nailing Kaiser with a flurry of kicks to the chest, and the kind of like they were given their sections, but like you said, a lot of it was very, very Penta based. But considering the way it went was really, really strange. So, like I said, for a lot of it, Penta was in charge. We saw sling blades, hurricane ranas, we saw a lot of Penta's sort of high risk maneuvers that we see a lot of. Yeah, but to have, I'm not sure if, I think personally with the way this match went, I think they changed their mind halfway through the match about who was winning. Because it kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. It went from being the Penta show to actually Ludwig Kaiser getting more of a look in from the opportunities rather than Penta. But there was still it still felt very back and forth.
It felt incomplete to me. There was definitely. I don't think you needed to add anything, but there was certainly missing. I felt like there was something that we were supposed to have picked up on that we didn't.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just. I mean, as you say, it's considering the way the match went, it just didn't quite all add up to me, but. Maybe that was me. Maybe I did miss something. I'm not sure. But yeah, as it goes, Kaiser sort of interrupts a Penta driver, which we haven't seen anybody do yet.
No.
And sort of steals a win via pinfall on Pete Dunne. So overall, the loser in this is Pete Dunne.
Yeah, because he didn't get much time to show his ability. Not that Pete Dunne needs to show what he can do, but it is nice to let a wrestler get into a rhythm.
Yeah, the thing with Pete Dunne, as much as he's very local to where I came from, like ridiculously local to where I came from, it's a case that, and as much as I want to support him, there's just something about him that I'm not totally sold on. He's a decent talent, and he stayed there as long as he had.
I'd say he's been there since the NXT UK days, so he's been there a fair while.
But if you think about it, NXT UK also had Gunther, who's now the World Heavyweight Champion.
Yes.
It's that obviously we see this in wrestling all the time, is that two wrestlers can follow a very similar but end up in two very different places. And sometimes it's just the right word in the right ear.
What do you think about it? NXT UK was introduced almost 10 years ago, so it was December 2016 we got NXT UK opened up to us as viewers. And it lasted 6 years, so it went through to September 2022, and then it was sort of relaunched and repackaged, and then it was delayed due to the merger between the WWE and UFC for the TKO group holdings, and then after that it's kind of been forgotten about. Yeah,
it never really went anywhere.
Just even if you just scroll down through the Wikipedia page, there's not a huge amount to it. There's a few names that have popped up that we haven't really seen since, things like Tyler Bates, who was quite big, and then, like you said, at one point we had some big names in there. So Brooks Jensen, who's currently part of the D'Angelo, is he in the D'Angelo family? And Josh Briggs were a tag at one point, and they've both done a lot better out of it than Pete Dunne has.
Yeah, so in any situation, there's winners and there's losers, but I'm just not sure what to make of Pete Dunne. It's a case that I want to like the guy, but I'm not entirely sure that I can.
I don't think we've been given enough to like him in a way that we'd like to.
No, this is it.
Yeah, so obviously, like we said, Ludwig Kaiser came in and stole the win for this one, which gives him his little bit more of a heel push. Like, it's a classic heel victory to kind of come in from the outside and snake it, or to steal a win at the end. He may not have dominated this match, but he capitalised when it mattered the most. And,
100%.
You could tell as well, you got a verbal reaction an audio reaction from the crowd, and they really weren't happy about it either. But again, that works in with his role as being a heel. he's done something to piss off the crowd, and he's done it well. So I think he did his job. It may not have been the best one for us as a viewer. It may not have been the best one in terms of, as a talent being in that ring, but his job was done. He gets his paycheck.
Yeah, certainly. So we went from that first match into a VT promo, which basically...
It was Cena's retirement tour one, wasn't it?
We recapped Cena's journey into the Elimination Chamber, which there wasn't really a journey. It was more of a speech.
Yeah.
But they managed to string it out into a good 2-3 minute VT. Considering the speech itself only lasted about
30 seconds in an interview, wasn't it?
I was going to say it was 30 seconds to a minute.
It's basically just Cena saying that he was going on to win the 17th championship at WrestleMania just so he can shake the hand of the guy who wins 18 after he's built his existence in this company off the loyalty that he's provided to it, the things he's missed, the sacrifices that he's given up for WWE. One of those, in theory, being his marriage as well. Because I don't think his relationship with the WWE being the way it was helped with the Nikki Bella situation, as well as the other bits that were cited.
Well, they were never officially married.
Well, they weren't. They were due to get married, weren't they? But they never actually got down the aisle. Yeah,
it's a case that they were engaged, but never actually made it down. Never actually made it to the altar, sort of. He's married now.
So is Nikki Bella.
He's married to an engineer, I believe. And when he first entered WWE 20 years ago, he was married then too.
Yeah, that didn't make long, did it?
No, it didn't
last long at all.
No, it definitely did not. But yeah, John Cena hasn't had much. We haven't seen him at all since Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
He literally cut that promo in a press conference after Royal Rumble, and then we haven't seen him since.
Well, so he's been filming a TV show in Hungary, which this pissed me off a little bit, I'm not going to lie. So when he came back on Monday Night Raw for the debut of the Netflix era, and he's like, I'm not just going to be one of these part-time, I'm here every week, I'm going to be doing this every week. And we are now 2 months in, and we've seen him once. And yeah, don't get me wrong, he had a great Royal Rumble run. Obviously coming second to the main event, Jey Uso. If you haven't listened to that episode of the podcast, I would go back and listen to it. Fantastic. But yeah, no, he's not really done much to warrant being a retirement tour so far. But if we're going to get him back more frequently after Elimination Chamber, I think where he had this previous engagement that was pre-booked in, that they've kind of gone, right, well, we can't have you win the Rumble because we need you a lot more, but we can have you win at Elimination Chamber because you're then not booked from this date through to this date for anything else. You're with us.
So I've said for a long time that I think Cena's going to win at Elimination Chamber. There's a part of me that doesn't think he will. I'm starting to doubt my prediction. No. I've got a feeling it's going to be a CM Punk year. There's something deep in the pit of my stomach that tells me this is going to be CM Punk's year.
The reason I don't think it's going to be CM Punk is because of his favour with Paul Heyman. I think that is going to pay into this Cody Rhodes Rock Soul situation. But either way, we're going somewhere. And before we digress too far, we're going to go into an in-the-crowd interview between Jackie Redmond and Rhea Ripley. Kind of just looking to see what her opinion is on the Elimination Chamber, even though she's got a match on the Monday Night Raw afterwards with Io Sky for the women's title.
This is it, and this is one of the big things that Jackie Redmond brought up in the interview, is that as much as Rhea's got to be keeping an eye on what happened in the Nation after this next Raw, it's a case that she might not even be the champion. She might not even be going to WrestleMania.
I mean, she is probably due a chunk of time off. Do I see them dropping the title from Rhea before WrestleMania? No. I think Io is going to go in and have a great match against Rhea, but I don't think it's going to be a contention for title changes just yet. If by doing that you take out a few other storylines as well, so it'd be a bit of a big one. It'd be like having Tiffy drop her title now. You'd take out the whole Nia Jax, Candice LeRae, Trish Stratus sort of angle they're building, and it would be a complete waste. Rhea does point out in this promo, though, that it has been, 5 years since her and Io Sky last had a match, and we are reminded that Rhea has never beaten Io in a match, but like she says, in the last 5 years she's become the most dominant woman in the WWE, and she's beaten everyone, including Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Liv Morgan. No one has come up against Rhea that's really been too much of an issue, and she doesn't think Io is going to be an issue either.
And Io seems to think otherwise, as she I've said this before, and I will say it again with the same. It's not that I am against non-English speaking wrestlers in the WWE.
I just wish they put some more time into learning more English.
Yeah, knowing that this is primarily broadcast in English and every other superstar speaks English.
Apart from the Japanese ones.
She cuts a promo, part of it in Japanese, which I understand, native tongue, get that completely. But it sort of takes away from any intensity that she can ever build.
Yes. Because she ends up then having to repeat it in English. And we find the same with Penta when he's popping the promos. I've noticed it with Julia. A lot of the non-English speaking main wrestlers do not cut great promos. What they're trying to come across is lost in translation, and I'll use it that way. It's probably a wrong one to use, to be fair, but it does get lost.
It does. But she comes in, basically says it's going to be a repeat of history. It's going to be history repeats itself again. Io Sky thinks she's going to walk out of next week as the women's champion. Which, all power to her if she manages it. I just don't see it happening.
No, I don't personally either. I think Io needs to lay off the magic cookie she's been eating backstage, but she hasn't got a chance.
Yeah, pretty much. We go into the second. We go from here into the second match of the night, which was a men's tag team match. It saw the New Day versus the LWO, being Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde.
I'm glad you managed to pronounce his name, because I've been trying to get it done for the last few minutes and just could not get it out.
I had to make a note. I'm not sure how I managed to make this note, but I managed to make a mental note of pronounced. So it's very much a case that I got that right. But this is where we find out that essentially Rey Mysterio is out indefinitely. This is where it's confirmed. Obviously, we mentioned it earlier in the episode, but yeah, it's did you get the impression that the timing was slightly off for this little segment? Because we saw an entrance, we went to an ad break,
we went to a promo.
We came back from the ad break, and it felt like we were interrupting.
I've noticed that with a few matches over this, and I noticed a few issues with NXT as well. We're kind of getting like 3/4 of a product at the moment. The way they're trying to build the programming just does not seem to work. If you're going to give me a match, give me a match. Give me the entrance, give me the match. While they're leaving the ring, give me a promo or a VT. don't bring in half a set of superstars where we're like, right, cool, this is the match. Especially if we're trying to make notes on it. So you look through my notes and you get like, it's the New Day versus LWO, and then you get like New Day come out, and my notes on the New Day coming out, and then it's like, oh, we got a VT promo about such and such, and then it's like you come back out and the match has already started.
Yeah, it drives up the wall anybody that happens to sit with me when I'm watching an episode and writing notes on it, because I'm constantly starting it, because I've either so much has happened in such a short space of time that I have to try and note some of it down, or it's a case that I'm having to let something play out to find out if I'm going to need to go back and alter something. Because if I start making notes, and it still happens even though I do that, is that I'll play it through, I'll start making notes, all of a sudden something else has happened that we haven't been let in on yet, and it's a case that I'm then having to sort of cycle back and rework my notes to make sure that they're consistent.
Yeah, which is getting more and more harder. I think this strongly worded email is going to have to be sent to their production team. But this match kicked off with Cruz del Toro and Xavier Woods starting against each other. We've got Cruz. I've not seen much of the LWO. I know Adam's seen a little bit more than I have, but I've not seen much of them. So it was really nice to see kind of what we were going to get from them for me.
See, I noted down that it was actually Joaquin Wilde and Xavier Woods that started the match, not Cruz del Toro.
No, I've got Cruz with the stomping Woods in the corner and knocking in an upside down choke along the press. And then after we'd done that, he tagged in Joaquin Wilde, and they double teamed Woods with a combination. Wilde with the springboard missile drop kick, sending Woods across the ring.
Okay, that could be me. I could have got that wrong, but it's perfectly possible.
Was after that, LWO try and snag an early ping, but Woods kicks out at 2, with everyone sort of chanting up a little bit more about how much the New Day sucks.
Yeah, which they do, let's face it. Although I will say, I'm not angry at their new entrance.
No.
I got to review this while you were off ill a few weeks ago, when they first debuted it, and this is the next time that I seem to remember us being able to cover it, and just absolutely adore their new entrance. It's great. Can't get enough of it.
It's definitely different to what we used to. Obviously, we spent so long with that face New Day, with the upbeat sort of entry music. It's definitely a nice change, I'm not going to lie. Makes them feel a little bit fresher than they were at one point, because they were, probably still are to a point, but the character is dragging a little bit, or their storyline is dragging a little bit.
Yeah, they needed a new direction. They've got the new direction. It is a new day for the new day. I didn't get a massive amount of notes. I've got to admit, I enjoyed watching Wilde and Del Toro. I thought they were really fun to watch. It's really high energy, high risk, just what we'd expect from the Luchador World Order, LWO.
Yeah, well, we did get Kofi pinning a cheap shot with a low bridging Wild, low bridging Wild with when he was trying to pull off a springboard attempt, but there wasn't a huge amount of things that I noted of, apart from maybe if there was a springboard Hurricane Rana a little bit later on, which was quite nice to watch. I quite like watching the Luchas. I tend to get lost in their matches, especially when you've got them sort of popping up and just disappearing with some insane agility. there was a Doomsday Device inspired move at one point where you've got Wilder perched on Cruz's shoulders, but Kofi managed to break it up. We got to see a lot of what LWO are capable of. We haven't seen a lot of them. I think I need to see more of them before I make it too much of a decision about how excited I am for their next matches.
Well, I think with Rey Mysterio out, we're certainly going to see a lot more of them. And with the way this match ended, I think we're going to see a lot more of LWO in general, especially when it comes to the New Day, as they seem to have made it a personal mission to go after everything that Rey Mysterio is building over there for it. New Day end up picking up the win. I've got it down here as following an eye rake from Kingston to Del Toro.
There was a distraction from Kofi Kingston, not from Kofi, from Xavier Woods to start off with. Then Kofi raked Cruz's eyes behind the ref's back and hit the finisher, which it was a backbreaker into a top rope double stomp. And then Cruz got pinned by Xavier Woods, I think, was the guy who pinned him. I'm not 100% sure.
Unusually, I didn't make a note of who got the pin.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I think you're right in the fact that it was Xavier Woods, but I think it was Del Toro that got pinned. But again, we seem to have.
I think we might have confused which one is with who's who.
Yeah, pretty much. It's fucking need to start wearing name tags around their neck. So I can't keep track sometimes.
Especially NXT at the moment, they keep adding new people in, and it's confusing me, man. If I wasn't making notes, I'd be screwed. New Day steal the win.
We're not talking about NXT just yet.
Nope. New Day steal the win. It's not clean, but it is a textbook heel win for them. Something to gloat about, and the Cincinnati fans basically do to them what they do to Logan Paul and boo him back out of the building.
Well, not before New Day decide to try to lay in a beating for the LWO, to the point that we even get Dragon Lee, another member of the LWO, come out to try and save their asses.
Well, yeah, it turns into a numbers game. But
even then, it's not very often we see a numbers game go quite this way, because unfortunately, what should have been a 3-on-2 situation. I mean, Cruz and Del Toro were already laid out in the ring. Dragon Lee came down. He put up a good initial fight, but did succumb to the fact that there were two active New Day superstars in the ring and only one of him.
Yeah, but also you've got to think, even though New Day have just had a match, they're one of the most decorated tag teams in the WWE at the moment. I'm not going to go to say as far as catching up with sort of the likes of the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys and stuff, but they've racked up a fair few title runs. They're not inexperienced, are they? They can probably deal with the guys they're coming up against quite easily anyway, or they did within their match, and they certainly made easy work of Dragon Lee. But the three guys of LWO, they're not a major threat, are they? Not to someone of New Days.
I think we're going to see a lot more of them, and they're going to reveal themselves to be a lot more of a threat than I think anybody thinks they are. I mean,
wooden horse situation.
It's just a case. I think we're going to find that they're not as helpless as they perhaps want to make out that they are.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to find out where WWE are going to take this feud, because
there's not really a path kind of set out for it. Yeah, there isn't a path really set out for it, but there needs to be. There needs to be someone in Gorilla going, right, this is what's going on. We need to make this go to here, this go to here, and then even if they don't take it as far as Mania, I mean, we haven't got long left now, but even if they don't take it that far, it needs to be a main event somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I think they're possibly, with this one, they could even be looking forward to next year's Mania.
Yeah.
Because that's the WWE writers' ethos, is always looking forward to Mania.
Oh yeah. And they've probably had this year's Mania written for about 6 months anyway. So, but yeah, we'll find out about Mania in April, I suppose. But we go from here into a backstage segment where Judgment Day have set up their little base camp again in a corner. And I did notice something interesting in this segment before we jump too much into it. As you scroll up towards, the camera pans up towards Finn Balor and Dirty Dominic Mysterio, there is a poster in the background on the wall of the Demon Finn Balor. So it'd be interesting to see, as I said, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, we've not seen a lot of the Demon Finn Balor yet, and I know we only really see it with a face Balor, but there's a few things being set up, which could we see it soon? I don't know.
It has been a very long time since we've seen Demon King Finn Balor, so it would be interesting to find out how that works out, if that is something we see in the future. But for the here and the now, we find ourselves in Judgment Day's little clubhouse, and Finn Balor, Dom Mysterio, as they have been for a few weeks now, just seem to be having another disagreement.
Oh yeah, sorry, just to throw it in there, right, the last time we saw the Demon King Finn Balor was WrestleMania 39 Night 2. So yeah, it's been a long time.
That was when he won the WWE Universal Championship, I believe.
Don't think so. It doesn't
versus
say.
Seth Rollins?
No, it just says he debuted the Persona at WrestleMania 2018, where he beat Bobby Lashley for the Intercontinental Championship, but we haven't seen it. It doesn't say when. Lost to Roman Reigns in a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania 39. Lost to Damian Priest at Bad Blood 2024. Yeah, it's not really coming up with anything. Lost to Xavier Woods in the King of the Ring tournament. That's got to be embarrassing. So yeah, it doesn't say what the match was. I'd have to look into the WrestleMania 39 match card. Yeah,
but again, we'll digress. We'll cease digressing. So Balor, again, I've talked before about this power struggle that Balor seems to have found himself in, or seems to be getting himself all worked up about, because he's here calling last week the most embarrassing day in Judgment Day history, and he's laying all the blame for it at Dom's feet, because Dom went out, picked a fight with AJ Styles, got his ass handed to him by Styles, and then got speared by Bron Breakker.
And he didn't just get speared by Bron Breakker either. He got snapped in half. Like, I don't know how the fuck he got up from that. I really don't. But yeah.
Well, considering the spear that he took wasn't even intended for him.
No.
It was intended for AJ Styles. AJ Styles sidestepped it, and Dom was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, he went to the all-you-could-eat buffet and did not pick up a clean plate.
But do you know what? I'm going to give Dom some credit here. He could have quite easily turned around and said, well, you didn't win your match last week either. Finn Balor did have an Elimination Chamber qualifier match against Seth Rollins, which Seth Rollins did have his hand raised at the end of it.
He does bring that up, actually. That does get brought up a little bit later on in the promo, and then you get to see that was just after Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez came into the fray, and basically just to tell him to stop fighting. Everything was going to be cool. They got their match against Bianca Belair and Naomi later. Dom's got his match a little bit later on as well.
Against Bron Breakker.
Yeah, against Bron Breakker. So, and then if both of them win their matches, they've got, three belts between them. Two with the tag team champions, and then Dom as a potential IC if he can pull it off. I don't think this is an IC match, though, is it? Is it a title
it's
match?
Not.
No, either way, he's got a win. Well, got a match against Bron. And
if he wins, he sets himself up for a future IC title shot. So
Yeah, that was the stipulation, wasn't it?
Basically, Liv's instructions were get on the same page, help Dom win his match. Me and Raquel are going to go out, handle our business. And actually, they bring up at one point that for the first time, Liv and Raquel actually claim to have no involvement with the Cargill incident either.
I did spot that because, Finn Balor says to him about, you guys are bringing a little bit too much heat to the Judgment Day after your incident with Jade Cargill. And they're like, yeah, it wasn't actually us. So I think you may have hit the cherry on the head with your call a few weeks back about it being Naomi.
I think we're just going to find out that I think Liv and Raquel were there.
They
I just think they were in the wrong place.
Yeah, they got set up.
Wrong place, wrong time. Because that footage was handed into SmackDown general manager Nick Aldis anonymously.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm still putting money on the fact that Naomi had a lot to gain and not a lot to lose by taking Jade Cargill out.
Yeah, no, exactly.
She had a pre-existing friendship with Bianca Belair, so I'm still calling it.
Well, definitely, I would take that if I could. And then the next thing we get is a VT. Oh, actually, sorry. Before we jump into this, I made special note about this, so I'm going to mention it. Carlito, we get a line from Carlito when he grabs his apple, and he just goes, "Oh, a yellow one," and I don't know why that intrigued me so much. But I don't think I've ever seen a grown man get excited over a yellow apple before.
But this is the man that thinks apples are cool.
Oh, yeah, that is true. And don't get me wrong, a decent Granny Smith is an enjoyable one, but I'm not quite sure I'd be wanting a yellow apple. It should be green.
So we go from here.
It was Cody Rhodes.
I didn't make a note of anything Cody Rhodes related. The next thing I took note of was an in-ring promo. Gunther.
Well, Gunther had a VT thing, a little bit earlier on, where he was walking through. And then, obviously, there's a little bit with American... I've put down Alpha Babes, right? And I think it's because it's written on their T-shirts. But it's Otis... It's Alpha Academy that he walked past, and they were doing a little, TikTok dance thing backstage, which, obviously... Gunther doesn't like people doing stupid clowny stuff like that, does he?
But the irony is that I saw the video they made on TikTok itself before watching the episode. So it just gave me a little bit more context as to, because all you see in their TikTok video is a cameraman sweep past them. You don't even see Gunther in their frame. So their frame shows nothing of Gunther. All you see is a cameraman sweep past them, obviously recording a bit, and that's what he was recording. He was recording Gunther walking through, looking disapprovingly, and moving on.
Yeah, but when we first see him, he's in a suit, and then we see him again just before his walkout, and he's in his ring gear.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But he comes obviously out into the ring in his ring gear and proclaims that he has a match that nobody knew about.
Yeah, that he'd taken his WrestleMania happiness and he'd been to talk to Raw's general manager, Adam Pearce.
And he'd handpicked his opponent. Now,
I thought it was going to be Jey Uso.
Whenever somebody handpicks an opponent, it only ever goes one of two ways. They're either looking for a squash match, so they pick somebody that's far below their level, or they pick somebody who is going to be like a real achievement to get past.
Yeah, and which is why I thought they were going to bring Jey Uso out, and I thought they were going to let Uso get a cheeky win in a singles match over Gunther before they met at WrestleMania. Because obviously Jey hasn't beaten Gunther yet, so I thought they were going to let him get some confidence going into this ring into this
if
match.
they're going to do that, they'll do it by having him face other opponents. They're not going to let him get a win over Gunther until Mania. Because I still think Jey Uso is going to walk out of Mania having dethroned Gunther.
Yeah.
That is how I think that's playing out. So, yeah, when we do our WrestleMania coverage in a
few weeks
about
time.
a month's time, it's going to be. I'm looking forward to being able to proclaim Jey Uso WrestleMania main event Jey Uso as the new heavyweight world title holder.
Well, yeah,
Until then,
nice.
I will continue to call him WrestleMania main event Jey Uso.
Yeet.
Yeet.
Your neighbours must fucking hate you.
We're doing this during the day today, so it's a case that all of my neighbours that would be possibly put off are out already, so nothing to worry about there.
Yeah, so we find out a little while later after Gunther's busy chatting Gunther shit that he's facing Akira Tozawa. So they're going for the squash match in this route.
Yeah, it's a case that, and he calls Akira Tozawa to the ring, and despite being flanked by the other members of Alpha Babes, Alpha Academy, whichever we go with, which are, of course, Otis and Maxine Dupree.
Oh, mate.
It
annoys me the way she pronounces that. He's shitting himself, isn't he?
Oh, he is clearly shitting him. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think Gunther is the most physically impressive person on the roster. But
that man can chop.
Still shit myself. I was going to say, I'd still shit myself if I'm having to walk down the ring knowing I've got to fight him.
Yeah, if I knew I was just going down to the ring to receive a chop, I'd be a little bit like, yeah, nah, I'm good, bro. So for an actual match, yeah, I'd be cacking myself. But it did give you a little bit of a David versus Goliath vibe with it. You know, Akira Tozawa has held gold before, but we knew he wasn't going to take it off him, but there was always just that little inkling of maybe he could.
Yeah, it's a case that at this point, so this was a really weird one for me to take notes on. For everybody listening, it's a case, obviously, I know Rich has seen the way that I take my notes. It's a case that it's broken down between in-ring promos, matches, and I'll break it down that way. But this was sort of a promo that led directly into a match. There wasn't a clear break. Couldn't tell where the promo ended and the match began.
No.
So it was a really weird one to try and take notes on.
It started off with Gunther just kind of like pushing him around, really. That was it, wasn't it? It just kind of shoulder poked him a few times and then the bell rang.
Well, he started off, he was still cutting the promo after Tozawa got into the ring, and he just sort of tries drawing the parallels between him and Tozawa. They both left their home countries to come and make a name for themselves in the WWE. And yeah, it's just a case that it's similar to what I was saying earlier on about Pete Dunne, is that you can have two superstars that start off in very similar positions, but their trajectories through the company are so very different.
Yeah,
Tozawa, we've seen dressed as a ninja, chasing R-Truth around different arenas all over America, chasing the 24/7 championship.
Yeah.
We've also seen more recently Akira Tozawa doing TikTok dances, admittedly not even doing them well. In some cases, doing completely different dances to what the other two are doing. But still, that is the trajectory, that word, that we've seen him on. Whereas you look at Gunther, who has done nothing but pretty much hold gold throughout his entire WWE career, even back when he was in WWE NXT UK.
Well, yeah.
So two very similar starts. with no real crossover.
No, they've both done completely separate things. Like I said, Akira Tozawa's basically been turned into a clown, and Gunther's been pushed off as the face of the biggest brands in there.
Yeah, and basically, I genuinely thought that Gunther was going to be putting his title on the line for this one.
Yeah, no.
And you know that arrogant sort of we see it every year on the run up to WrestleMania. Most champions will have a championship defense between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. We've already seen Tiffany Stratton do it.
We know Rhea's got hers on Monday next week
Rhea's
against Io Sky.
I don't really see Cody Rhodes doing one this year.
No, that's what I'm thinking.
But it wouldn't shock me if we get a Gunther title defense before Mania. It'll be an opponent of his choosing, and it'll be a squash match. It always is. I don't think if there has ever been an instance of lifting a title off of a champion on the road to WrestleMania, they are few and far between, and there's no extenuating circumstances behind that. But
no, there isn't. And Gunther pretty much used this as an opportunity to build up for just kind of keep his streak ticking over, really, didn't he? He ragdolled Akira Tozawa around for about 3-4 minutes. It wasn't a very long match at all.
In fairness, Akira Tozawa put up a really good fight. He started off really well. He started off really well, and I'm not mad at it. He did as well as he was ever going to do, realistically.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually we got to the point where
I think he just ran out of gas, to be fair.
Yeah, it's a case that he was never going to get overtly far with it. This is
exactly what a squash match is. He was there to just get thrown around, be pulverized, just to show Gunther off a little bit. Not that Gunther needs it; he's a title holder, and to kind of, without trying to throw too much of Jey Uso down our necks. It's obviously, we've seen a lot of Jey Uso the last few weeks, and again, I'm not mad at this, but they don't want him running out week in, week out, threatening the same thing, because by the time they do finally get to it, everyone's just going to have got bored of them running in and out.
Yeah, and this is the balance that WWE have got to strike. But in this match, I've got to admit, Tozawa does manage to get a few pin attempts in there. Obviously, no successful pin falls, but pin attempts. At one point, he tries to go high risk. Gunther catches him and turns it into a Boston Crab submission, which I thought was actually rather impressive. And even more impressive, Tozawa manages to make it to the rope to actually break the submission hold. But yeah, Gunther wasn't going to win this with a pinfall. That was not how he was going to go.
No, definitely. He wasn't going to allow it to go that far. If you're going to have a squash match, you're going to embarrass the person you're doing it to, and he pretty much found out a way of doing that. Especially after, you don't see a lot of Gunther with submission attempts, but for a submission win, it was definitely not something I was expecting. I thought he was just going to throw him around, ragdoll him, jump on his head a few times, and then pin him for an easy 3 in the middle. But yeah, he managed to lock in that submission move and put Tozawa down, which made a statement, really, that he was really in full control, and he was going to be very clinical about the way he did it. But after we got that bit done, we could see by the look in Gunther's eyes that he wasn't finished. He wanted to make sure that he'd thrown everything he had at Tozawa, and he jumps him again, stomping him into the mat. At which point, we get finally some intervention from Otis, where he kind of comes in, and you get it was a bit of an interesting one, because he got into the ring and Gunther got out of it. So obviously Gunther wasn't looking to get too much into it with Otis. Maybe knew that if he did, that his days may not be numbered as such, but he might get his chicken cooked for him in that specific one. Not that I see Otis as much of a threat to Gunther, but Gunther obviously saw enough to go, actually, I'm going to jump out of here. Only for him to sneak back in a few minutes later, and, well, not even a few minutes, it was probably 60 seconds later at the most, and lock a sleeper hold in on Otis while he was checking on Akira Tozawa.
I mean, strategically, it made complete sense.
Oh, yes, it did.
Otis had made the crucial rookie error of turning his back on Gunther. He turned his back on the threat. And he paid the price for it, essentially. I like Otis. I think Otis is a really entertaining star. I think he's and he's incredibly nimble for somebody of his size.
But he can't walk properly.
He can't talk properly either. But that's not the point. If there's a reason he doesn't do much mic work, bless him. But
he's got such a little mini sort of. It's like he's muscle bound to a point. He can't like use certain points, so he just kind of waddles, and his arms just kind of move to the side, left to right, really quickly.
Yeah, but it's all part of his charm, unfortunately. I mean,
it certainly is.
But yeah, it's a case that we do eventually get Jey Uso comes out to run Gunther
quite a big
out.
Pop as he came down as well, to be fair.
I mean, what did you expect? This is the guy that managed to get several arenas full of people eating all at the same time.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he's over, but did they leave it too late? Possibly. Could they have done, if they'd brought him down 30 seconds earlier as Gunther was locking in that submission hold, just for Jey to super kick his cheeks off and for Gunther to roll out and disappear again? It could have been written slightly differently and had more of an impact towards the end of it. I think Jey coming out was a little bit lackluster considering the damage had already been done.
We're still in the provocation stage of this WrestleMania story. This is where Gunther is building up the heat before Jey can start getting little wins in on him. There will come a point where it's almost as though Gunther becomes too overconfident.
Too cocky.
Yeah, it's a case that he will become overconfident. He will get to the point where he starts making silly little mistakes. And that's when Jey will start capitalizing on it. It's a case. We've seen it quite a few years ago, over and over again. Is the big bad champion who doesn't really feel threatened starts picking out some weaker opponents to squash. He then starts making mistakes. He might lose a match to one of these. He might lose one of these matches. And this is when we see this champion really start. It's when we see the threat level for the champion.
You disappeared?
You shouldn't have done.
Nope, you disappeared. But yeah, like you said, it starts bringing the threat level in for the champion, and as he starts getting a little bit too cocky, and Jey will come in and give him a few kicks and a few little mini victories before they go into their match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, this is it. But unusually, we went from here into we went from match 3, if you can call it a match, into match 4, this was the
women's intercontinental title match between Dakota Kai and Lyra Valkyria. Yes. Lyra's first title defense as well, which I believe I remember the commentary team giving a little bit of stature to.
So this isn't their first time facing off, but it's their first time facing off with Lyra Valkyria as the champion.
Obviously, Lyra beat Dakota Kai to win the women's intercontinental title about a month ago, wasn't it? month, 6 weeks.
Yeah, something like that. She beat them in the final round of the tournament that decided who the inaugural was going to be. And yeah, Dakota Kai managed to re-qualify as number one contender for this title by beating Ivy Nile last week.
What match that was.
Yeah, it was an okay match. I'm not. Again, I feel like when I first watch the matches, it's the case that I see them through rose-tinted goggles. I then sort of ponder on the match afterwards and think, was it as good as it could have been? Probably not. Is there elements I would have changed? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think we all do it at different matches. I think Dakota will be doing it with this match, to be fair.
In fairness, I think Dakota Kai gave this everything she had. It's just everything she had wasn't enough to beat Valkyria on this particular night.
No, so we'll give you the pretext for that one. So it does finish with Lyra Valkyria retaining her Intercontinental title, but this is definitely not a match that you can ignore. If you're listening to this before you get an opportunity to sit and watch the programming, then definitely make sure you sit and watch this match. There's so much in it that, yes, it doesn't change the result, but it just gives you that little bit of extra. Like you can see how much these two women are putting into this match.
Yeah, there were some bits that I really enjoyed. Like Valkyria was avoiding Kai pinning her by it was like a suspension crab maneuver sort of thing. Loved seeing that. That was brilliant. And there was a superplex quite early on, I think, where both of them ended up getting just as banged up as each other.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. I will not lie. Yeah, it was a delayed vertical suplex into the mat, but yeah, both of them ate the mat quite hard on that one, and you can see both of these girls were giving everything they had in this match. I'd say, like you said, on this particular day, Dakota Kai just didn't quite have enough in the tank, I don't think.
And I think you see that she gets that because at the end of the match, it's again what we've seen throughout a good majority of the women's title matches is that there's a great show of respect and like sportsmanship at the end. Is that it either ends with a handshake? I mean, in this case, I think it ended up with like
it's more of a cuddle.
Dakota Kai's hand being raised and things like that. Just I loved seeing it. The real bit came after the match, though.
Yeah, this match was definitely it was worth watching, but the real meat and veg of this story came afterwards with Ivy Nile running out on Dakota Kai, throwing her straight into the barricades as she was talking to the crowd and kind of doing her face bit on the way back up the ramp, and then running straight down to the ring. Shit, this woman's fast for someone who's so muscly and well built. Woman's got some speed on her too. She flies down to the ring, grabs Lyra Valkyria's foot on the rope while she's stood up on the top, just kind of celebrating her win with a title, gets face planted off the top rope on her way down, and then sort of beaten brutally by Ivy Nile. I think it was a released German suplex followed by a bit of a beatdown, which was it kind of showed how much, I say, apart from her speed and her pure aggression and agility, like she's got the package there. She's just not normally what you'd expect from a well, I was about to say a diva, but I think that's disrespectful these days. From a member of the women's division.
Yeah, we've got to make sure that we're not allowed to call them divas anymore, even though TNA have not changed their class outs. Although, yeah, I suppose that's not quite as viewed as quite as disrespectfully. But yeah, we're definitely seeing, I think, Ivy Nile is possibly next in line for a women's IC title shot.
Yeah, definitely. If she picks the title up and makes a stands over Lyra Valkyria holding it, kind of screaming at this mine. So she's definitely coming for that. Is that going to be Elimination Chamber Fallout, though? I mean, we're not going to get any more matches at Elimination Chamber, I don't think, but you'll...
No, I don't think we will either. We might see...
That'd be a main event of a Monday Night Raw at some point, I think.
We may even see it evolve into possibly an undercard match for one of the nights of...
Yeah, undercard match for one of the nights of Mania as well could be a great idea.
We went from here to a
VT
promo. I've got a VT promo for the match at Elimination Chamber, the unsanctioned match between Sami Zayn and
so it
Kevin
started
Owens.
off with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee talking ringside about it. Then it went into the VT from for the Elimination Chamber match with an interview with Sami Zayn and Rachel Redmond, was it?
Kathy Kelly, I've got.
Oh, I might have just completely fucked up the names on that one, to be fair, but I know it was the Sami Zayn was definitely there. I just didn't double check my notes on who it was with.
Yeah, so I've got, it was a pre-recorded interview with Kathy Kelly and Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
Talking about the latest development. Now, the latest development is obviously the last time we heard from Kevin Owens was literally outside of one of the windows of Sami Zayn's.
Yeah, he was outside the window to Sami Zayn's house, and he was busy kind of discussing why it was a bad idea for Sami to be trying to take him on at Elimination Chamber in their unsanctioned match, and what sort of broken things he could do.
Yeah, it's to the point that Sami Zayn doesn't recognise either him or Kevin Owens in how they're playing this one out, and apparently he's been asked quite a lot, what's different from this between this time and all the other times that you've
Well, they've fallen out.
All the other times that they faced off against one another. And yeah, I think he probably hit the nail on the head, is that they're not acting like friends having a fallout. These are mortal enemies going at each other.
Yeah, they're not. Neither of them are feeling very oozy.
No, definitely not. And this all seems to have been cooked up inside of Kevin Owens' head again. I mean, I suppose I can sort of see the logic that he's using, but I'm certainly not buying what he's selling.
It's very thin, isn't it? Yeah, you really don't want to pick up what he's putting down. We're getting this whole match over the fact that Sami Zayn didn't interfere in his match at the Royal Rumble with Cody Rhodes and didn't save him from being a package pile driven through a ladder. I mean, I personally enjoyed watching him getting that package pile driver through the ladder, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, this whole match is based off the fact that Sami Zayn didn't save him, and Sami's like, well, I wasn't getting involved. It wasn't my match to fight.
Yeah, the fact that I was out, his stance is very much is the fact that I was out there not enough to show how much I cared. I think this is the match that you pulled for. And now he's going into an even more brutal match with probably one of his best friends in the world.
I think Sami Zayn's got this in the book, personally. Something in the pit of my stomach tells me that we're going to have the most phenomenal match. And if Dave Meltzer doesn't give what these guys put out a 5-star, he's getting my size 14 up his bumhole. Because these guys are going to give it everything they've got. This is going to be the match of the night, I think, when it comes to Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber matches themselves will give us a lot more storyline for WrestleMania and a lot more information, but I think this is going to be the match that people leave Elimination Chamber talking about. So
there is a rumor going around that so there's somebody that is connected to this little story that we haven't seen in a long time.
Ooh.
He's otherwise known as the Viper, Randy Orton.
Oh, please don't tell me they're going to make this a triple threat and stick him in there too.
No, I don't think it's going to end up being a triple threat, but I think he's going to... there's a rumour that he may be involved. Now, he hasn't been seen on WWE TV pretty much since before the the Netflix debut. I think I don't recall seeing him or reviewing anything done over the course of us doing these episodes.
No.
But I believe he has been off because of a package pole driver from Kevin Owens.
Oh, do we think Randy's going to show up and interfere?
That's the rumor, and I'm a big Randy Orton fan. I always have been.
Oh, yes.
One of my favourite matches of all time was the I Quit match between him and John Cena. I forget what event it was that they played it out at, but I literally can recall watching Randy Orton at the pyrotechnics desk trying to basically blow John Cena's head off. And it's always stayed with me.
So that was Breaking Point 2009 for the WWE Championship.
Yeah. It was an insane match. The look in Randy Orton's eyes was of a man beyond possessed, and I was there for it every second. Loved it.
Oh.
But yeah, so that's the rumor that's going round, and I'd love to see if that one plays out that way. But either way, if we see the Viper return, if we don't see the Viper return, this is going to be a big contender for match of the night.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I don't think we could have a bigger contender at this point.
No, this is it. Right, I've got next a VT promo for Naomi Bianca Belair, responding to Liv Morgan,
and Raquel Rodriguez for taking out Jade Cargill. Where, yeah, I don't have a lot on this one, to be fair.
No, I have next to nothing apart from they were giving a response to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. But
so you had
in unusual fashion, I didn't give an awful lot of detail as to what they were responding to. It obviously made sense to me at the time when I wrote it, but
I think it might have been more to do with the response to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez saying they were going to handle business in their match this evening against the two of them. We had a little VT about Cody Rhodes and his offer from The Rock from SmackDown, and that we'd seen Dominic Mysterio and the Judgment Day coming out for his match with Bron Breakker. We then got this little VT about Bianca and Naomi talking to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, and then it going into the next match. I didn't really, my notes kind of, which was Dom Mysterio versus Bron Breakker.
Yeah, so this was the match that I'm going to be even. I thought this was going to be an IC title match. I don't know why I thought it was going to be an IC title match, but that was quashed very quickly when the commentary team mentioned that it was to be if Dom won it, he was going to be walking out with a future IC title shot. So, but yeah, this match, as we mentioned earlier on, was born of a missed spear last week, which was intended for AJ Styles, but ended up hitting Dom and pretty much snapping him in half like a deck chair, basically. And yeah, I mean, Dom was completely outmatched.
And we knew he was going to be. When you get, like, there are some matches that you know Dom's going to be able to compete in. Dom is nowhere near Bron Breakker's level. And I think he knows that going into this match, but he doesn't seem as though he's fully, like, giving it everything he's got. Yes, we get, like, the cocky grins, you know, the fact that he's playing his character still really well, but in a match that he doesn't really have any. There's nothing in it for either of them.
Being in it,
he doesn't. No,
there's no business being in it. If it weren't for the fact that Carlito and Finn Balor were on the outside helping Dom, that would have been a squash match.
Yeah,
100%.
And we could have taken this match off the card, taken off the Akira Tozawa Gunther match off the card, and given two people who could have had a really good opportunity to show themselves in a singles match 10 minutes. These two matches really feel like they were just kind of thrown in for to see the organic push. Can we make something of it? No, not really. I don't think so.
It was the thinnest of thin ice for the story they were trying to build here. But yeah, it's a case that one of the things that I picked up on, Cole makes a really bizarre claim that at one point, Bron Breakker's running the ropes. He's running the ropes, and it's a running clothesline that is supposed to have been delivered at 23 miles per hour.
And yeah, Pat McAfee says it was 22 in the next sentence afterwards.
Yeah, though I don't know how true that is. I can believe that they can achieve some fantastic speeds in that ring running off those ropes. I'm not sure I can believe that a man can travel at 23 miles per hour in a space that isn't even a mile long.
I mean,
it doesn't seem feasible.
That impact on Aisho's speed he looked like a crash dummy that had just been fucking brutalized.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure I could make Aisho's speed out of pipe cleaners from Hobbycraft.
I mean, Dom Mysterio is not much bigger.
No, he's not, and this is why we say he was completely outclassed. I mean, this match, from what I can remember or what I've got noted, ends up. It's a DQ win for Breakker because Finn Balor and Carlito pulled the ripcord.
Yeah, well, Finn swings a chair at Braun, the champ ducks, and the ref calls for the bell for the disqualification. I think we all wanted to see Dom get the living shit speared out of himself again. Like, I think that was the only reason this match was thrown in there, is so we could all get we could get our rocks off a little bit by watching Dom get twisted up. Them not having a clean finish to this match makes me feel they're either really indecisive about giving Dom that win for a push into that title, or someone hasn't got both feet in the door on this match. Whether it be Dom not having both feet for wanting to be in there knowing it's a squash match, because that's theoretically what this was. There's no way of being able to kind of defeat it, really.
At this point, I think we're actually looking more down the barrel of WWE finding somebody that's believable enough to take the IC title off Bron Breakker.
They say we mentioned earlier about sort of things we'd seen on social media. There were rumours floating that the IC title at WrestleMania is going to be defended in a ladder match with sort of 6 or 7 guys in there. I think the only person they can give it to is Sheamus. He can't have too much left in his, too much gas left in the tank. I think they've got to give it to him so he can have a run with it at least before he can turn around and go, right, guys, I'm going to retire now. Like, this is taking too long to recover. As we haven't seen much of Sheamus since his match against Bron Breakker.
I'm pretty sure that Sheamus hasn't long signed a 5-year contract with WWE, so he's still in the early door. Still got some time to pick that title up.
Yeah, do we really want Sheamus to have a run with that title where it's, like a really negative run with it? Or, I'd much rather see him have it now for 6 months and walk out the door then, and have it in 4.5 years for 6 months where he just can't do it anymore.
Yeah, this is it. And this is where I'm hoping to God that they're not going to leave it too long for him. But we'll have to see from there. We'll move on. We went from there to a SmackDown TNT recap of the Rock promo, I believe.
Yes, and just kind of, again, just boosting this thing with The Rock and Cody from last week, which I didn't see the point in the original promo. I'm kind of losing the will to live with all these little sort of cheap shots and pushes towards it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like this. It came completely out of the blue. It looked completely unplanned. And they're trying to give it legs. They're trying to breathe life into something that should never have lived.
But I don't know about you. Like I know we've both been watching professional wrestling for a very long time. The Rock's day is done. Yes, he can pull a crowd. He can make some money. We've seen him have less and less within his WrestleMania appearances over the last few years. Like, just move over, Rock. Go back to Hollywood. Like, make your movies, make your money, do what it is that you want to do. Leave the young superstars that are there week in, week out, who want to progress and build the art of professional wrestling to do so. Just have 1 foot in or 1 foot out. Pick a struggle.
Yeah, it's a case that at the moment I think it's The Rock could end up making so much more money with so much less work.
Right, he doesn't need to be taking and distributing rock bottoms for cash these days. He just needs to go and do another movie that's not going to make it to the cinema.
Well, even if he wants to keep a foot in professional wrestling, which I know he does, all he'd have to do is bulk record a few generic VT promos about this, that, and the other at the beginning of the year, and say, "Yeah, chuck these in when appropriate."
Right,
and he'd still make the money off it.
I mean, how many times do we need to see a VT every year of The Rock threatening to whip someone's candy ass? I'll watch 3 or 4 of those a year and kind of hope that The Rock's coming back. Just because I'm hoping doesn't mean I actually want him to appear. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it sparks the fans' imaginations. Oh, what happens if The Rock comes back and lifts the IC title off Braun Breaker?
Yeah, you get all those dream matches possibly pop up in fans' heads, and then it ends up on social media like, "Oh, this would be a cool idea. I'd like to watch that."
I mean, I'm not ever for a single second saying that any fan has ever uttered The Rock and Braun Breaker in the same breath, talking about the same match. They're 2 completely different skill levels, and yeah, I'm just not sure that Braun Breaker would ever make it that far, but it's that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't. I think, but if you're feeding Braun Breaker to The Rock, you don't have much of an interest in Braun Breaker. But it's one of those, like, The Rock wants Cody's soul. I don't care if Cody gives it to him or not. I think it's one of those. We then see a little bit of American Made backstage hyping up Ivy Nile. And she then, I can't remember who it is she says it to, but she's talking about, the Creed brothers are going after Tag Team Gold, which we know obviously is the War Raiders at the moment. And without really even having to mention them, they come in and start basically a beat down on the Creed brothers.
Yeah, and Ivy Nile is lost somewhere in that fray. It's a case that I'm starting to get really confused with these tag titles, because are they both known as WWE Tag Team Champions? So we've got obviously War Raiders on Raw, and we've got DIY on SmackDown.
Yes, and then you've got Fraxium at NXT.
Yeah, but they're known as the NXT Tag Team Champions.
Where the other guys are just known as the Tag Team Champions. I'm guessing it's Raw's and SmackDown, but they're both referred to as Tag Team Champions on their own respective shows.
Yeah, that's the thing that I could never... Because before, we've had it known that it's the Tag Team Champions...
From Raw, or from SmackDown.
The Raw... Yeah.
Well, they used to have the blue and the red belts, didn't they? So you could tell who was holding what, because the SmackDown ones had the blue background, the Raw ones had the the red background, sorry, and they were normally being held by an Uso.
Yeah, That's the bit that's sort of confusing me a little bit. But yeah, it's a case that they've got a match. I believe that is
next week, I think.
Next week.
Don't think it's at Elimination Chamber. I think it's Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it's Monday Night Raw as well. We went from that backstage promo into an in-ring promo where we see the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, come to talk about the decision he's got to make about his soul. Apparently,
this pissed me off a little bit because we've not, like, 60 seconds beforehand we were talking about Cody Rhodes in a recap VT. Now we've got Cody Rhodes. Did we need that recap VT? Is he's just come out and recap the recap of the recap?
Yeah, this is being pushed as a really big story when there's very little that's gone into it right now.
I mean, I think the biggest thing we've seen so far is what happens next, and that's just Seth Rollins coming out to the ring to basically just say, look, I didn't sacrifice everything at WrestleMania last year to come and help you win that title, for you to basically align yourself with the people we were fighting against. You know, last year at WrestleMania, we were fighting against The Rock and Roman Reigns, and then now you're about to become Rock's champion. Like, the fuck, bro? Seriously? And you could see that's what Rollins really wanted to say as well. Just wanted to kind of grab him by the tie and just go, what the fuck are you thinking? Really? Grow the fuck up.
Well, he goes as far as to say that if you take this, it's a slap in my face. In fact, I take it as a slap in my face that you didn't slap The Rock in his.
That could have been an interesting move, couldn't it? Cody slapping The Rock in the chops.
Oh, 100%. We both know it would have ended in a rock bottom at the end of the day. But,
possibly a crossroads.
But, yeah, Cody has some polarizing things to say, because he says about the fact that Seth was never going to be asked for his soul because Rollins' soul is so compromised based on how much betrayal he's inflicted out on everybody else. And then Cody in the next breath calls him the MVP of WrestleMania 40.
He was, to be fair. But you saw that Rollins knew he'd fucked up by coming out the way he did when Cody said that, because he looked quite taken back by it and very not the Seth Rollins we're used to seeing. Normally we're used to seeing a cocky, arrogant motherfucker, and I love it. Whether he be dressed in some erratic clothing of some kind. I swear he's basically sharing a wardrobe at this point with Sam Smith. But he was quite... you see him, he's looking down, he's got his beard in his hand, he's very sort of like... He's pondering, he's thinking, he's like, you know what, actually, maybe I was a little bit too hard on you when I first came out. But then continues to go off at him about, once Seth Rollins has won the Elimination Chamber and he's gone to WrestleMania and he wants to face Cody, but he doesn't want to face, like, the soulless Cody Rhodes that belongs to The Rock. He wants to face the guy that dethroned him at WrestleMania 38, the guy that he helped win last year. The guy, this is... And Cody Rhodes has been pushed really, really hard since he returned back from AEW, and you can see it's been such a long-winded story, back-to-back WrestleMania main events, back-to-back Royal Rumble wins. It was a huge, huge story that we loved watching. The Bloodline bit got a little bit in some points, but we've come away from that now, and we're getting another great storyline with Cody Rhodes in it. And, is this hinting that maybe we're going to see Seth interfere at WrestleMania to make sure that whatever does happen, if he doesn't win the Elimination Chamber, to try and stop whatever is going to happen from happening?
I think there's so many possibilities at this point. This could end up evolving into one of our favourite storylines of WrestleMania moving forward. We don't know. There's so much that we don't know at the moment. I think we possibly need to get the other side of Elimination Chamber for us to find out where we're going with this. Yeah,
I think so. But talking about Elimination Chamber, obviously that's coming up later on this week. We're having more of this Jade Cargill situation thrown at us with the next VT. So are we going to see, like you said, a couple of weeks ago, return of Jade Cargill at Elimination Chamber.
Well, before we go there, we need to sort of we will need to visit the main event match of this week, but we've still got a few other bits to clear up first. Or one more bit of business to clear up first before we get there. It's a case that we go from here to a backstage promo for which sees Akira Tozawa and Otis being attended to by the WWE trainer in the training room, as well as Maxine Dupree and
Mr.
oddly,
Uso.
well, no, the other person that was there, and I don't think you, by the sounds of it, doesn't sound like you picked up on it. We saw Natalya for the first time on Raw since Netflix era, and she was in the training room places attending to Akira Tozawa and Otis.
There have been a few videos popping up on social media of Natalya training in a private gym somewhere. So I'm not sure if we are building up to possibly a Raw after Mania return for Natalya.
I hope so.
I'd love to see Natalya back in. Like, yes, she pisses me off sometimes when she's in, but I think like she's definitely one of those stables of the women's division that it's been weird not having her around. And if I remember correctly, we did not see her in the Royal Rumble either, which is something that was very strange. Normally with a women's Royal Rumble, you get Natalya.
Yeah, I don't think we did see her in the women's Royal Rumble, and you're right. We do normally see her in the Rumble match, but what if she comes back? I don't want it to be this big return, this big fanfare for Natalya to come back, and then they don't do anything with her.
I mean, yeah,
I want to see her have
that Charlotte got, and then get a title opportunity within a few weeks. Is she?
I just want to see her come back, have a really good run, even possibly. I mean, there's so many more titles now. I'd love to see it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a women's championship run.
A women's IC title or a women's North American title run for Natalya would be nice, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd just love to see her hold some gold.
Or a tag team. I'd see her in a tag team division, you know.
It depends on the partner she gets. If they pick her partner well,
give her Roxanne Perez, mate.
You know?
Or have I just done it again?
That's not a bad shout.
I might have just done it again. Ooh, that'd be an interesting one. Could we see Natalya and Roxanne Perez in a tag match?
We'll keep hold of that one. Right, anyway.
Talking about tag matches, though, the main event of the evening is Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Naomi and Bianca Belair. I keep wanting to call her Bianca Belair, but we're not going into that one.
It is, but we've sort of breezed past this backstage promo. We got sidetracked talking about Natalya. Yeah, so you're right. We saw Jey Uso come in basically to check up and offer some words of encouragement to Tozawa and to Otis. And yeah, that was quite sort of a wholesome moment for Jey to come in and just say, "Guys, you actually did well out there, considering."
He's just playing his
and
face
then
role.
Leaves.
And he's adding it's the little snippets that have made it so much better than your standard face run or your standard sort of like push. He's adding little bits in that not many other people do, and it's working on his benefit because the viewer is getting to see that he's not just about himself. He is more about the other people. It just seems that, well, he bumps into two of WWE's biggest dickheads outside of The Miz, in Grayson Waller and Austin Theory on the way out of the medical room. And they're just digging at him. They're just being dickheads, really. That's the only way I could describe it. Basically saying that, you know, people think he's just a bit of a meme, that he's not actually going to beat Gunther at WrestleMania. And all you really get in reply from Jay is just the occasional "you." He doesn't really say a lot until the end, where he kind of comes off with, they've got the locker room's doubting me, you guys are doubting me, everyone's doubting me, but actually I'm going to do it. And we both want him to, I know that much. I'm hoping you guys at home also want to see him dethrone Gunther at WrestleMania.
Yeah, as much as Gunther is an impressive champion with an impressive pedigree behind him, it's a case that I'm not seeing. I don't want to see him past. I don't want to see him as champion past Mania. Although I do keep seeing. I'm pretty sure there are some clickbait items out on the internet at the moment that keep saying that Jey Uso is going to be replaced, which would be an absolute travesty at this point.
Unless he gets
injured, unless it's for medical reasons.
Yeah.
But yes, we will. We've basically covered that promo, which means we are left with the main event match.
Yep, we certainly are. If you'll excuse me, I have a special guest in the studio that's currently getting all up in my business.
Fair enough. I will carry on from here then.
Yeah,
so
the cat is currently jumping all over me.
Right, so this was a main event women's tag team title match. As Rich said earlier on, this saw the ladies of the Judgment Day, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, versus the current champions, Naomi and Bianca Belair. And it's a case that because of all the animosity and bad blood that have sort of generated because of this Jade Cargill situation, I think Naomi and Bianca Belair went in. They weren't going in to defend their title, even though they physically went in to defend their title. They were going in trying to get retribution for Jade, which is completely understandable.
Title as an opportunity to make sure they got that match. Because let's face it, who doesn't want a tag title match? we all love title matches.
Oh, 100%. Having said that, me and Rich are entering in a tag title at Wrestle. No, we're not. That'd be an interesting one, though.
Well, me and you
I'm not sure which of the tag. I'm not sure which of the tag titles we'd go for, but
let's face it, mate. The only thing me and you are tag teaming these days is a fucking full English breakfast somewhere.
But I ain't tag teaming that with you. Fucking finish that myself. That's a one-on-one. That is. That's mano on breakfast. It's.
You should see the breakfast I've got lined up for us next time. Oh, don't you worry about that. It's a big breakfast.
Anyway, yeah. So Champ's looking for some retribution for Jade Cargill, and because of the aggressive style they come out of the gate with, it's a case that the Champs take an early lead in this, and really, you'd expect nothing less from champions, really.
I mean, you're going to use everything you have in the champion's advantage bucket, aren't you? As long as you can get that match won, you don't care. If it means that you have to slap someone with your title for a DQ because you know that you're not losing on that DQ, doesn't matter really, does it? You take one for the team, that's why it's a tag team.
Yeah, this is it. But having said that, a lot of the big moves and a lot of the big maneuvers came from Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez and the Judgment Day on this one. Because, we saw...
I've got a few sort of bigger bits from Bianca Belair and Naomi, but a lot of my notes are more how intense Liv and Raquel were.
Yeah, they went out there to make sure that gold went home with them.
Yeah, and I mean, I found out from social media about this match and the result, and I was not mad by it at all. We've seen this tag team of Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez kind of just, they've not done a huge amount up until the last month. But the work they've put in the last month and the matches they've had, we've followed this from the start, really. And it's this storyline. It's been, I'll say from the start of the Netflix era, we've really been invested by this one, purely for the fact that we don't actually know who took out Jade Cargill either. So and what's going to happen with that. But
we've got an official finishers and factions theory on how that's working.
we'll get Adam
But
to put that up as a
nothing
bonus
confirmed.
episode. As he's got a hell of a theory.
Which I've gone over in a previous episode. I've got too much time going over it today. So if you want to hear my theory, then go back and listen to our episodes and see how you get on.
Yeah, no, definitely. So there was a couple of cheap shots in this one that I made note of. Liv Morgan got one on Bianca Belair, knocking her off the apron, which, again, in this move, I suppose, you've got Judgment Day as a heel. You know, they were going to then use that as an opportunity to kind of taunt the crowd and do their normal heely bits and pieces that you've kind of come to expect from Liv Morgan and Judgment Day.
Yeah, they weren't pulling any punches, and they were trying to get every inch they could get, even though, or even including having a distraction on the outside of the ring in Dom Mysterio.
Well, he was just jumping all up and down the ropes, just trying to keep the referee entertained, so someone could get some naughtiness off in the background. And I mean, Dom's got that perfect heel heat down anyway. As we saw it in his match earlier, we see it a lot when he comes out. People don't like him. Yeah,
and honestly, this match didn't really get interesting until the last couple of minutes for me. The first chunk of this match, I could have taken or left. It didn't really resonate with me, but as soon as we started getting into like the closing stages, we could see sort of where it was heading toward, and the match ends up ending
overtaking who was in charge, to be fair, and it went from having sort of Naomi and Bianca Belair having more of the match, but not necessarily having the steam to be in charge of the match. It flipped quite sort of drastically into Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez had the steam to push through, and they took complete control of the end of this match and made themselves, for the first time in WWE history, the first 3-time women's tag team champions.
Yeah, it's a case that
I'm not sure that I'm 100% agreeing with that statement. There has got to be a women's tag championship or tag team somewhere that's won the title more than twice.
So not in WWE, because they didn't really have a title for women's tag. They've never really done. They've done women's tag matches, but never had never really had much of a tag team title to speak of.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ending to this match is basically Naomi goes for a split leg moonsault, but has her leg caught by Raquel. As Naomi tries to fight back, has her head bounced off the ring post, which basically is good night Vienna for her. And Liv Morgan just pulls the 3 count out of the bag, and they are walking into Elimination Chamber Liv is walking in as one half of the new Women's Tag Team Champions.
Right, here we go. So the Women's Tag Team Championship was announced on December 24th, 2018 on Monday Night Raw, and the first champions, or the first Women's Tag Champions, do you know who they were, Adam?
I want to say it wasn't Lay Cool, was it?
It wasn't, no. The first women to hold the WWE Women's Tag Championship, apparently it was Bayley and Sasha Banks.
Ah, okay.
Obviously, Sasha Banks is known as
Mercedes Moné.
Yeah, in AEW.
She's holding like 4 different belts at the moment, I think.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. I know she's got a couple of indie ones and a couple of AEW ones, but yeah, no, definitely she's stacking gold over there at the moment.
100%. But yeah, so that actually brings us to the end of Finishers and Factions does Monday Night Raw. Thank you to everybody that's listened. We really appreciate it. You will hear from us again when we come to you for Finishers and Factions does NXT, which is coming to us from Cincinnati, Ohio, just like we have done with Raw this week. And we'll break down all of the matches that come with that as well. So yeah, please stay tuned. We'll get that episode out to you as soon as we possibly can, and we are but days away from Elimination Chamber. So we look forward to having each and every one of you here with us when we come back for Finishers and Factions does NXT. Thank you so much, and see you all soon.